Today, what we are going through is, do you need to watch tape on your opponent before your fight or your fight camp? First off, the pros of doing this. You're going to be able to see what they are doing. What is their fighting style? Are they a wrestler? Are they a striker? Do they like to mix it up completely and do everything or every element of MMA? As well as that, you can get to see what areas are they're not the best in. From there, you can then structure your camp to work those areas. If they're rubbish at defending takedowns, you can concentrate on that element of getting successful takedowns in your sparring rounds, so then you can create your way to win. The whole point of watching tape for your opponents is to figure out how are you going to beat them. Is it in the striking element? Is it in the wrestling? Is it you're just going to burn them out in the cardio sense? But the main thing is, how are you going to win the fight? And if that doesn't work, what is your plan B? If your plan A of the way to win doesn't work, you need a plan B. You're going to get that through watching tape of your opponent. Now, the cons of watching the tape. This can take time away from your training. When you are watching tape, that is time that you could have been training. It can also sometimes get you worked up, and by this I mean it can get you nervous. It can get you thinking they are very good in certain elements and make you less confident sometimes. That is the reason why I'd stay away from watching tape at the start of my career, my first couple fights, because I'd look at what they were doing good and not how I could expose it. Next bit, you could be focusing on the wrong things. This means if they're a wrestler and you're looking at all the wrestling techniques they do, their camp might not be focused on wrestling. They might try and strike that particular fight. And if you've watched their tape, you could be creating a game plan on completely the wrong things just because they are not focusing on that for that particular fight. So sometimes it can throw you off. And most important one about this, or the biggest con, is you end up focusing on them and not focusing on yourself. The main thing of fighting, you want to put your style into play into a fight. You don't want to be looking at how someone else fights and changing your style according to that. You want to just fight your game. Fight the game you're good at. Don't try and do games or styles that you're not the best at. And by watching tape, sometimes you can come away from your style because you are scared of what they can do in that element. If you look at Conor McGregor and Khabib, he was scared to strike as much because he was so concentrating on the wrestling and defending all the wrestling takedowns, he didn't release his striking game to his full potential. And that is literally because he was watching that much tape that he was scared for the takedowns, and it affected the elements that he was actually good in. Now what I do not watch any tape whatsoever. I will not search my opponent on YouTube. I don't care what the name is. All I will do is focus on me. Only me. There's one fight that I focused on the opponent and his style because it was something that everyone would say was such a heavy wrestler, and I focused on that and I didn't let my element shine. Example, like Conor McGregor and Khabib. I was so scared of the wrestling or wary or cautious of the wrestling that I didn't get to show my game, and that's because I was focusing on them and not on me. So the main thing is you got to focus on yourself, and it's my coach's job to look at the areas I need to be cautious in. It's their job to look at the tape. I do not care about the tape one bit. I'm just going to go in there and fight my game. Beforehand, I will already know what sort of discipline they are favourable in, if they're going to wrestle, if they're going to strike, if they're going to mix it up. You're going to know the ins and outs, but I don't watch the particular tape of if they're stepping left a lot, if they're stepping right a lot. I will just see that in the fight, because you think about on the street, you can't watch YouTube before you have a street fight. You just got to have a fight, and I look at the same sort of mentality. But the main reason for that is so I can fully focus on me as an individual and a fighter and not focus on them. Because when you focus on them, you take away from your strengths. I'm going to work my strengths and use that to capitalise on my opponent. That's today's video. That is how we do it, because we're built different around here. Some people might do it differently. Some people may say you are losing out by not watching tape, but I will leave that down to my coaches, like I said, and I will not do it myself just because I don't really want to. I'd rather just do my game because it's not going to change either way. But that's today's video. Bish, bash, bosh, pow!